Hey, I'm Isabel Longoria, the Elections Administrator. I want to start off with a big thank you for being one of our election support specialists. I know there's a lot you could do with your time, but here you're part of the less than 1% who actually is involved in running elections, making sure that we promote voting, a right here in America, and making sure it's safe, secure, and successful. So thanks for being a part of this. Thanks for keeping the line short. Thanks for everything you're going to do to help voters vote in Harris County, and I'll see you out there at the polls.
In this video, we are going to go over the setup and basic operations of a polling location. This includes how to set up a voting line, how to set up and operate the sanitation stations, how to set up a sneeze guard, how to set up and operate the curbside bell, the e-poll book case and its contents, how to troubleshoot common problems, as well as how to break down and repackage this equipment once the polls are closed. With the transition to the Harris County Elections Administration, Harris County will no longer utilize the Hart InterCivic eSlate voting system. The new equipment we will use instead is the Hart InterCivic Verity voting system. We will now go over a brief summary of each piece of equipment. The Verity TouchWriter Duo replaces both the Dow and the eSlate units. The TouchWriter Duo can be distinguished from the controller and scan units by the presence of a blue D on the case near the handle. In place of the buttons on the eSlate, the TouchWriter Duo instead uses a touchscreen. The check-in process for the voter is similar. The voter enters into the polling location, checks in with the poll workers who issue an access code. The voter then takes their access code to a machine, enters it, and the machine produces that voter's precinct ballot style. From there, the voter navigates the ballot and makes their selections. Previously, the cast vote record would be stored on the voting machine itself and the machine used to issue the access codes. Now, the TouchWriter Duo instead prints out a paper ballot that the voter can examine before actually casting their ballot. We'll go over how to cast a ballot in a bit. The Verity controller now partially replaces the Judge's Booth controller, or JBC. The controller can be distinguished from the Scan and Duo units by the presence of an orange C near the handle. Like the JBC, the controller is used to assign booth numbers to the attached voting booths and manage access codes for said voting booths. Like before, once the voter has checked in on the e-poll book, the poll worker assigned to the controller will scan the barcode produced by the e-poll book, which will then produce an access code with that voter's ballot style. The poll worker on the controller is capable of monitoring the status of the attached voting booths via the touchscreen. The controller is also responsible for opening, suspending, and closing the polls of all its attached voting booths. The Verity Scan takes on the remainder of the duties of the JBC. The scan unit can be distinguished from the controller and Duo units by the presence of a light blue S near the handle. As I said before, booths now produce their own paper ballots. However, the cast vote record is neither stored on the TouchWriter Duo nor the controller. The vote is not cast until the scan successfully receives the printed ballot and records the vote. The cast vote record is stored in three ways. 1. The paper ballot itself. 2. Electronically on the scan unit. And 3. Electronically on the scan unit's V-drive. V-drives, while connected to the scan, function similarly to the MBBs that were used in the JBCs, storing the election data as well as cast vote records. The scan will be seated on top of a ballot box that is used to store the printed ballots. The paper used to record votes is a deliberately designed and cut thermal paper. Thermal paper does not use ink, but instead uses a material that changes color when exposed to heat. These are similar to the paper rolls access codes are printed on via the controller. This has been a brief summary of the Duo, controller, and scan units. Along with the new Verity voting system equipment, we are also replacing our eSlate caddies. Instead, equipment will arrive to your polling location inside of large two-leveled cages. These cages serve the exact same function to allow various pieces of equipment to be transported easily and securely to locations across Harris County. The cages will arrive to your polling location with a red seal secured around the latch holding the cage shut. Please do not break this red seal without explicit permission to do so from the presiding judge. Once the seal is removed, you may open the cage by rotating the handle of the latch counterclockwise 90 degrees. Once it has been rotated, you may open the doors to the cage. Please note, in order to close the cage correctly and securely, the left door must be shut first. Once the left door is shut, close the right door. In order to relatch the right door correctly, press your hand at the top corner of the door above the latch while simultaneously pressing on the bottom corner with your foot. Rotate the latch clockwise in order to lock the doors. You may have to rotate the hook connected to the latch at the top of the door if it catches on the top of the cage. This is the equipment cage. The new Duo units that are replacing our eSlates and Dows no longer come with the legs and voting booth attached to the machines. Instead, they will arrive to your polling location separately and inside of their own bags. In addition, this portion of the video will show you how to attach the new privacy screens to the voting booths. The voting booths will arrive in two varieties: the standard booth, shown here in a bag with a black handle, and the accessible booth, shown here in a bag with a red handle. In order to set up the standard booth, first remove the booth, larger rear foot, and privacy screens from the bag they arrived in. Set the booth upside down on the ground or a table. Next, unfold the legs halfway. Doing this allows us to unsecure the two front feet from the brace on the underside of the booth. Following this, unfold the legs of the booth, locking them in place. Grip the larger rear foot with both hands and line it up with the corresponding leg pieces. The angular cut pieces with the push pins go inside of the cylindrical pieces with the pin holes. Line both sides of the rear foot up, push in both pins at the same time, and slide it down, making sure the pins lock in place. Following this, secure both front feet by sliding them inside of the remaining two leg pieces, pushing in the silver pins, and lock them in place. Finally, stand the booth up. In order to attach the privacy screens to the voting booth, simply attach the hooks on the privacy screens to the corresponding slots on either side of the voting booth, shown here. However, this is best reserved for after the booths and units are set up. The process for setting up the accessible booth is similar. You'll note that the bag for the accessible booth is considerably wider than the bag for the standard booth. The booth itself is accordingly wider than the standard booth. First, remove the accessible booth, larger rear foot, and privacy screens from the bag. Next, lay the booth upside down flat on the ground or a table. Remove the two elastic straps holding the legs together, shown here. Unfold the legs from the booth halfway in order to remove the two smaller feet from the brace on the underside of the booth. Unfold the legs completely, making sure the legs lock in place. Next, using both hands, line up the larger rear foot with its corresponding leg pieces. The angular cut pieces with the push pins go inside of the cylindrical pieces with the pin holes. Push both pins in at the same time, and lower the larger rear foot down until both pins lock in place. Next, attach the smaller front feet onto the remaining leg pieces. You may now stand the booth up. Attaching the privacy screens onto the accessible booth is identical to attaching the privacy screens onto the standard booth. Simply attach the privacy screens hooks to the slots on the top of the booth. However, much like with the standard booth, this is best reserved for once the machines have been completely set up. Each polling location will also receive a ballot box. This doubles as the place where the paper ballots are stored and the stand for the scan unit. These will arrive to your polling location unassembled and must be put together in order to function. The first step is to lay the currently folded ballot box upright with the pull to set up labels facing upwards. Next, unlatch the four latches on the sides of the folded ballot box. As it unlatches, it should begin to separate on its own. Place your hands on the pull to set up labels and separate the sides of the machines outward, in the direction of the arrows on the label. Carefully extend the two other sides so that the hinges, shown here, are completely straight. Be careful when straightening these hinges as it is possible to hurt yourself with this pinch point. Next, lower the ballot box's floor. This is located on the inside of one of the sides of the ballot box. Next, unsecure the three elastic bands holding the lid in place on the lower side of the lid located here. Once all three have been released, lift the lid all the way up and pull it across the ballot box. The reason you lift the lid all the way up is that the lid is double jointed. Simply rotating it over will not secure it properly. Once you lift and pull the lid across, gently press the lid down to secure it in place. The front of the ballot box is locked shut. In order to access the inside of the ballot box, you will need the key provided to the presiding judge. Retrieve the key from the presiding judge and open the front of the ballot box. Finally, gently press on each of the Press Here labels to lock the floor into place. Before we proceed any further, this item here is known as a ballot bag. This is going to be placed inside of the ballot box and will be where the majority of the printed cast vote records will go after being scanned. You set up the ballot bag by first releasing the Velcro strap, holding the handles together. Next, unzip the top of the ballot bag. Inside, there are two metal wire frames shown here. Rotate the two metal wire frames downward, securing them with the Velcro straps located on the inside of the bottom of the ballot bag. If done correctly, the ballot bag will be shaped like a rectangular prism and should stand straight up. Verify that the placard inside of the clear sleeve on the front of the ballot bag matches your polling location. Slide the ballot bag inside of the ballot box with a zippable cover on top draped over the left side of the ballot bag. Close the front door to the ballot box and lock it shut. Like with the accessible and standard booths, there are 4 slots on the top of the ballot box that the privacy screens hook onto. Simply insert the hook on the privacy screen into the slots on either side of the ballot box in order to set up the privacy screen. As with the voting booths, we recommend doing this only after the scan unit has been set up. On the underside of both the booths and the ballot box, there is a mechanism that actuates the studs on top of the booths and ballot box that locks the machine to the booth or box. In all 3, you pull them towards the front of the machine to unlock and towards the rear of the machine to lock. In the ballot box, this also serves to lock the lid to the ballot box in place. These correspond to slots located on the underside of the Duo controller and scan units. The booths each have 1 stud that locks the Duos in place, whereas the ballot box has 3 studs that lock the scan in place. Make sure when placing a duo or scan on top of its booth or ballot box that the studs are in the unlocked forward position, otherwise the duo or scan will not seat correctly and you could damage the machine. When the ballot box arrives to your polling location, it will be sealed in two locations: the emergency reserve hatch and the rear door of the ballot box. In addition, the presiding judge is responsible for sealing the front door of the ballot box and noting the serial numbers on all three red seals. You are able to set up both the standard and accessible booth legs on either the floor or, if available, a table. This is how to set up the voting booths and ballot box. During the process of setting up and positioning the voting machines, there are a few things to keep in mind. 1. How each machine is going to get power. 2. Where the extension cords and surge protectors are going to be positioned. And 3. What areas the voters are going to be walking across. How you position the machines and cables is going to influence where the voters will be walking. Each one of the controller, duo, and scan units has its own power cable and requires its own power outlet in order to function. In order to ensure each machine has power, you will be utilizing the yellow 3-pronged extension cords as well as the white surge protectors. When supplying the booths with power, make sure that the extension cords and surge protectors are positioned in such a way that the voters are not walking across them. A good example of this is running cables between two rows of machines facing opposite of one another, or behind a row of machines with the cables against the wall. Lay your power cables after setting up the booths, but before setting up the machines on top of the booths. It is far easier to reposition an empty booth than one with a machine on top of it. When running power to your voting machines, please ensure that you are running the white surge protectors to the yellow extension cords and not the other way around. By running multiple white surge protectors to one yellow extension cord, you are able to reduce the total number of cables that may have to cross a voter's path. Each yellow extension cord can fit 3 white surge protectors, and each white surge protector can fit up to 5 voting machines. In absolute terms, this means you're able to supply up to 15 voting machines off of one wall outlet. In practical terms, you're usually able to supply each voting line with one yellow extension cord. This machine is known as a controller. The controller is responsible for assigning and managing the voting booths attached to it. It is distinguished from the other Verity machines by the presence of an orange C adjacent to the handle. Controllers will arrive to your location sealed. Please make sure that the presiding judge breaks the seal or gives you permission to do so. We are now going to go over how to set up the controller. The controller is typically placed on a table next to the e-poll books. Once the presiding judge has given permission to break the seals or done so themselves, you may proceed. There are 2 latches on the front of the case, located here and here. In order to release these latches, rotate the top half of the latch down and then back up, making sure that the bottom half does not catch. Once both latches are released, open the lid, making sure to lock the hinge on the left side of the machine in place. Inside you will find the controller tablet dock, the sealed V-drive door, the blue power cable compartment, and the paper roll printer. First, take off the blue power cable compartment door, remove both halves of the power cable, and replace the blue power cable compartment door. Place both halves of the power cable off to the side and close the controller's lid. Next, turn your attention to the rear of the controller. You will find a blue poll worker button. This is used for various diagnostic and administrative functions. The power cable port. This is where the power cable connects to the machine. Please note that the power cable locks into the power cable port, so be sure it locks in place once inserted, and be sure to unlock the power cable before trying to remove it. The red power button. This is used to turn on and turn off the machine. Whenever powering on or off the machine, please hold it for at least 3 seconds. Finally, 2 Verity cable ports. These 2 ports are behind a sliding plastic dust cover. The port on the right has an additional sliding dust cover. The 2 dust covers can be slid independently of one another, like this. Take the power cable and connect both halves together, like so. Next, take the power cable's locking end and turn it so that the flat face is facing upwards. Insert it into the power cable port on the rear of the machine, like so. You may have to wiggle it in order to get it to fully lock into place. Once it is locked into place, give it a gentle pull to ensure that it is in fact locked. Next, connect the other half of the power cable to your surge protector. Following this, return to the front of the machine and open it up again. There is a blue lever on the upper left of the machine. Rotate the lever upwards. Next, unlock the tablet from its slot using one of the keys provided to the presiding judge. Please do not attempt to remove the tablet from its slot while it is locked in place, or you could damage the tablet. Place the tablet in the dock located just below it, and rotate it until the top of the tablet is in contact with the lid behind it. Finally, lock the tablet back into place. Please note, located to the right of the tablet dock is the V-drive door, sealed shut. Under absolutely no circumstances are you to ever break this seal. You will never be asked nor expected to break this seal. Do not break this seal. Retrieve the barcode reader from the voting accessories box. Plug the blue cable into the port located on the sealed V-Drive door. This device is used to read the barcodes produced by the e-poll books and generate access codes. This is how to set up a controller. This machine is known as the TouchRider Duo. The Duo units replace the E-slates and DAOs we used previously. You can distinguish it from the other Verity units by the presence of a blue D adjacent to the handle. The Duo units can be placed either on a standard booth, shown here, or an accessible booth, shown here. It is generally advisable to set up and position the booths for the Duos prior to attempting to set up the Duos themselves. Duo units will not arrive to your polling location sealed. We are now going to go over how to set up the Duos and daisy chain them to their controller. First, position the Duos on top of the assembled booths. In order to position each Duo on the machine correctly, please ensure that the metal lock is pulled forward into the unlocked position, like so. Each Duo has 5 rubber feet located on the underside, shown here. These rubber feet correspond to holes positioned on the top of the booth, shown here. Line up the 5 rubber feet with the 5 holes on the booth, and the Duo will slide into place. Once you have done so, push the silver lock towards the rear of the booth in order to secure the machine to the booth. Repeat this process for every single Duo. Next, in order to open the lids for the Duos, you need to unsecure the 2 latches on the front of each machine. This is accomplished by pulling down on the top half of the latch and then releasing it. Inside of the Duo you will find the TouchRider Duo tablet, the TouchRider Duo dock, the V-Drive door, the ballot printer, and the blue power cable compartment. Remove the blue power cable compartment door, retrieve both halves of the power cable, and replace the door. Set the halves of the power cable off to the side, and close the lid to the Duo. Next, go to the rear of the machine. While being visually similar to the rear of the controller, it is not identical. We'll go over each component now. Starting from the left, we have the blue poll worker button. Like on the controller, this is used for a variety of diagnostic and administrative functions. The power cable port. This is identical to the power cable port on the controller and, like the controller, the power cable locks in when correctly attached. Make sure to unlock the power cable before attempting to remove it. The red power button. This is used to turn the machine off and on. Be sure to hold it for at least 3 seconds when attempting to do either. The ATI module port. This is used to connect the audio tactile interface, also known as ATI, module to the Duo unit. It has a dust cover that you have to slide up in order to connect the ATI module plug to the port. Please note that the ATI module will not work correctly if it is not plugged in before the machine is turned on. The 2 Verity cable ports. Like on the controller, these are both concealed by a dust cover you must move in order to connect the Verity cables. Connect both halves of the power cable together and rotate the locking end of the power cable so that the flap face is turned upwards. Connect the power cable to the power cable port, making sure that it locks in place. After this, connect the other end of the power cable to the surge protector. Please repeat this process for every machine on the line. Once every single Duo has been locked into its booth and had power connected, connect the ATI module to the first machine in the line, and then connect the headphones to the ATI module's headphone port located on the top left. Place the ATI module in the slot to the right of the machine on the booth. Daisy chain the Duos together with the Verity cables. When connecting the Verity cables to the Duos, make sure you are completely unwrapping the Verity cable, so that each cable has slack. The tips of these cables are fragile, and mild amounts of torque on the metal tips can result in the metal tip breaking off in the machine. Do not connect the very first machine on the line to the controller just yet. Once every single Duo is connected to power, daisy chained together, and the ATI module is plugged into the first machine on the line, go ahead and start opening up the Duos, locking the hinge on the left in place on each one. Next, rotate the blue lever on the top left of the machine up. Each tablet is secured to the underside of the lid by a lock, shown here. Do not attempt to remove the tablet from the lid without first unlocking it. Retrieve the key from the presiding judge in order to unlock the tablet. Once the tablet has been unlocked, place the tablet in its dock located just below the tablet storage slot, and then rotate the tablet until it is in contact with the underside of the lid. Finally, lock the tablet in place. Once you have locked each tablet into its dock, you may begin turning on the line, starting with the controller. Once the machines have turned on, they will display a diagnostic screen, shown here. This contains a good deal of information regarding the current status of the machines, however, only displays for a brief period. The primary thing you want to look for is whether or not any of the statuses on the diagnostic screen display as yellow. Everything excluding the ATI module should display as gray. The unit that has the ATI module should display the ATI module as gray as well. We'll cover the diagnostic screen in more detail later. Once the Duos and controller are finished booting up, the controller should prompt you to open polls, and the Duo should display controller not found. Go ahead and connect the last Verity cable to the controller and have the presiding judge print out the zero tape. All the booths, assuming they are daisy-chained correctly, should display the booth assignment screen. Assign the booths, the first booth being the accessible booth closest to the controller, and the final booth being the last booth connected to the line. If the booths are inadvertently assigned out of order, you are able to reassign the booth numbering before the polls are opened. When ready, the presiding judge will enter the Open Polls code. The controller will then display the booth monitoring screen, and each Duo will display the language select screen. If you haven't already, go ahead and secure the privacy screens to the Duos. This is how you set up the voting line. This machine is known as the Scan. The Scan unit replaces some of the functionality of the JVC in that it records and stores votes. However, the operation differs in some notable ways. We'll go over that in a bit. The Scan unit can be distinguished from the controller and Duo units by the presence of a light blue S located by the handle. The scan will arrive to your location sealed. Do not break this seal unless explicitly instructed to by the presiding judge. We are now going to go over how to set up the Scan unit. The Scan unit will be placed on top of and locked to the ballot box. There are 5 rubber feet on the bottom of the Scan unit that correspond to 5 holes on top of the ballot box. Make sure that the ballot box's lock is pulled forwards towards the front of the box in the open position when you position the scan. Otherwise, the unit will not seat correctly. Once you have locked the Scan unit to the ballot box and the presiding judge has broken the travel seal, release the 2 latches on the front by first rotating the top half down and then releasing it. Open the lid and lock the hinge on the left side of the unit in place. Inside the scan you will find the Scan tablet, the Scan tablet dock, the sealed V-drive door, the blue power cable compartment, the paper roll printer, and the ballot scanner. First, remove the blue power cable compartment door and take out both halves of the power cable. Set the power cable to the side and replace the blue power cable compartment door. Close the lid of the Scan unit and turn your attention to the rear of the Scan unit. Going from left to right, we have a blue poll worker button. Like the previous 2 machines, this allows access to various diagnostic and administrative functions for the Scan unit. The power cable port. This is where the unit's power cable connects to the machine. When attaching the power cable to the unit, please make sure that it locks in place. When removing the power cable from the machine, be sure to unlock the power cable before attempting to pull it out. The red power button. This is used to turn on and off the machine. When attempting to do either, please be sure to hold the button for at least 3 seconds. Next, take the power cable and connect both halves. Once you have done this, rotate the locking end of the cable until the flat side is facing up. Insert the power cable into the power cable port, making sure that the cable locks into place. Give it a gentle tug to make sure. Once you have done this, connect the other end of the power cable to a surge protector or a wall outlet. Once this is done, return to the front of the machine and open the lid. There is a blue lever in the upper left side of the lid. Rotate this blue lever upwards. The Scan unit, much like the controller and Duo units, will arrive locked to the underside of the lid. Do not attempt to remove the Scan unit prior to unlocking it, otherwise you could damage the machine. The lock for the tablet is located here. Ask the presiding judge for the key and unlock the tablet from the lid. Once you have done this, place the tablet in the dock located just below the tablet slot and rotate it until the tablet is in contact with the underside of the lid. Next, lock the tablet in place with the same key you used to unlock it. Once the tablet is locked into its dock and the Scan unit has access to wall power, you may turn on the machine. It will then require the Open Polls password from the presiding judge. Once entered, attach the privacy screens to the ballot box on either side of the machine if you haven't already. Located to the right of the tablet dock is the sealed V-drive door. Under no circumstances should you ever break this seal. We will never ask you to break this seal. Do not break this seal. This is how to set up the Scan unit. The device shown here is the new daisy chain power kit attached to a standard booth. These devices make supplying AC power to each voting machine simpler and easier. Instead of each Duo requiring its own power outlet, you are able to supply a whole line of Duos off of one outlet. For now, only early voting sites will receive daisy chain power kits. The daisy chain power kits will arrive to your location already attached to the booth, located inside of its travel bag. Let's go over the components inside of the daisy chain power kits. This device here is the AC power adapter. It is identical to the one supplied inside of the blue compartment located inside of the Duo, controller, and Scan units. On the right side of the AC power adapter is a locking cable. This cable connects to the rear of the Duo mounted on top of the booth the daisy chain power kit is attached to. On the left side of the AC power adapter is the AC power cable itself. This cable is far shorter than the original AC power cable, as all it needs to connect to is the daisy chain power kit's relay. Behind the AC power adapter on the right is the power adapter's original AC power cable. This cable's male, three-pronged end extends towards the previous booth in line, or if the booth is first in line, connects to a power outlet. Finally, behind the AC power adapter on the left is a three-pronged power socket. This is where the next booth in line's AC power cable will connect to. Now that we've covered what the daisy chain power kit is, let's go over setup. Set up and position the booths the power kits are attached to as you would otherwise. However, keep in mind the limited reach of the AC power cables, about 5 to 6 feet. Determine which end of the line is closest to an available outlet on a surge protector. If it's the beginning of the line, connect the first booth's AC power cable to the outlet. Then connect the second booth's power cable to the three-pronged socket on the first machine. Continue this process all the way down the line. If the available outlet is closest to the last machine on the line, do the same process but in reverse. Last machine connects to an outlet, second to last machine connects to the last machine, and so on. Verify that each AC power adapter is receiving a current. There is a green light on the power adapter that illuminates when it has access to a source of power. If any of the power adapters have a green light that is not illuminated, it indicates a break in the connection. Verify that each of the cables is fully connected and is oriented correctly. Let's see an example of this setup. We've positioned the booths closer than they would be otherwise and closed the lids to the duos to make it easier to see what's going on. Here we have the first booth in the line. As you can see, the AC power cable is connected to a power outlet. We can see a green light illuminated on the case of the AC power adapter. Moving up, we can see the locking cable coming out of the right side of the power adapter is currently connected to the duo secured on top of the booth. Moving left, we see that the first booth and the second booth are connected via the second booth's AC power cable. This process repeats all the way down to the end of the line. Once we reach the end of the line, you'll note that the last booth has nothing connected to the three-pronged power socket on the left side of the daisy chain power kit. As you can see, instead of requiring 4 outlets to supply power to these 4 duos, we instead are able to supply all 4 with a source of power with only 1 outlet. Please note, the term daisy chain refers to connecting 2 or more things to one another sequentially. The daisy chain power kits allow the power to be daisy chained, that is, supplied sequentially to each machine one after the other. This is not to be confused with the data cables, which are also daisy chained, that is, the data cables are able to transmit information between each machine, one after the other. Remember, daisy chain power kit refers to just the machine's power supply, and daisy chain data cables refer to just the cables that allow each machine to communicate. This is an e-pullbook case. The lid of the e-pullbook case is secured by 2 latches on the front. Inside of the e-pullbook case you will find 3 iPad stands, 3 or 4 iPads, which we will refer to as e-pullbooks, 5 charging bricks, 4 lightning cables, 1 micro USB cable, 1 USB-C cable, 1 judge's cell phone for certain locations, 1 extension cord, lens wipes, and 1 device called a MiFi. The iPad stands are used by poll workers to sign in voters. They have 2 positions, open and closed. Once the polls close, be sure to lock the iPad stands into the closed position by pressing the oval button in the center while closing the blue plate, otherwise the e-pullbook case may not be able to close. Next are the e-pullbooks. These are used by judges to look up and sign in voters. Please ensure that the e-pullbooks are plugged into a lightning cable, which is plugged into a white charging brick, which is plugged into a surge protector. Do not plug the lightning cable directly into the surge protector, otherwise the e-pullbook will slowly lose power over the course of the day. Periodically check the e-pullbooks throughout the day and ensure that they are both plugged in and are connected to Wi-Fi. If they are not, please inform the presiding judge. While checking the power and Wi-Fi status of the e-pullbooks, make sure the e-pullbooks do not enter sleep mode. If the screen goes black, wake the e-pullbooks up. Otherwise, the e-pullbook appears offline when we check on it. Each e-pullbook is identical and can be used for the same tasks. However, early voting locations will receive a translation iPad that is distinct from the e-pullbooks. Next is the judge's cell phone. Cell phones are given to polling locations only upon request. These allow the elections department to rapidly communicate with the election judges and their poll workers. Please ensure that these are on, plugged in, and located somewhere in the polling location with good signal. Finally, there is the MiFi. This device generates a Wi-Fi hotspot that the e-pullbooks use to communicate with the elections department. It is very important that you first turn on the MiFi by holding the power button and, once it is on, plug it in. Please ensure that you place the MiFi somewhere in the polling location where it gets the best signal, for example by an exterior door or window. Some locations may have a device known as an MP70. This device serves the same function as a MiFi, generating a Wi-Fi signal. In order to turn it on, all you need to do is open the lid and plug in the power cord to a power outlet. Once it is plugged in, please raise the MP70's antennas to the first click. If your location receives an MP70, please do not turn on your MiFi unless instructed to by election staff. Alongside the new DuoGos, we are also sending out a 3-foot by 3-foot table that we are referring to as the DuoGo table. Because of the awkward nature of connecting and securing the Duo tablet to the DuoGo, we ask that you do it on the DuoGo table to avoid potentially dropping a machine or taking up space on the check-in table. Setup of the table is pretty simple. Place the table upside down on the floor. Folded against the underside of the table are 2 sets of legs. Unfold both sets, making sure to secure the locking hinge in place. Rotate the table first onto its side, and then finally stand the table up. Position the DuoGo table next to the designated curbside voting duo. Note, the designated curbside duo must always be a duo positioned at the end of one of the lines. This is in contrast to the accessible booths, which are always positioned at the front of the lines. A curbside duo will always be on a standard, not accessible booth. This piece of equipment is known as the DuoGo. Its intended purpose is to make the process of curbside voting easier for both the attending clerks as well as for the voter. In short, it allows a Duo's tablet to operate and print a ballot even when not connected to its base station or a source of power. We'll go over the operation of the DuoGo in more detail later. For now, let's go over setup. The DuoGo will arrive to your location secured within a cardboard box, shown here. These both secure the DuoGo and its components for transport. Remove the DuoGo and the white cloth bag from the box. Inside of the white cloth bag, you will find both the power cable and the power cable adapter for the DuoGo. Remove both halves of the power cable and set the cloth bag back inside of the DuoGo's box for safekeeping. Before we proceed, let's go over a few things on the DuoGo. This side, shown here, is the front of the DuoGo. Located to the left of the open section under a sliding dust cover is an ATI module port. Located above the open section is a narrow slot. This is where the printed ballot will emerge after a curbside voter makes their selections. Now let's take a look at the other side of the unit. Located on the top right of the unit is the charging port. This is where the DuoGo's power cable plugs into. It is responsible for keeping the DuoGo's printer's battery charged. Located in the top middle of the unit is a lock. This lock is opened by the key without a liner that has a black tag. Let's open the unit and take a look inside. Located at the top is the DuoGo's printer. This is what allows a voter to print their ballot even when the tablet itself is not attached to a base station. There are 3 lights labeled Power, Data, and Status. We'll go over those in a moment. Located directly below the printer is a Velcro strap. This holds the tablet of the curbside duo in place while it is being used by a curbside voter. The tablet sits face down in the DuoGo, with the strap running across the rear of the tablet. Finally, located in the bottom right is a short USB cable. This cable is what allows the Duo tablet to communicate with both the DuoGo's printer as well as the DuoGo's ATI module port. Now, let's continue with the setup. Place the DuoGo face down on the DuoGo table. Connect both ends of the DuoGo's power cable together, then connect the power cable to a source of AC power. Plug the other end of the power cable into the DuoGo's charging port. With the DuoGo's tagged key, open the rear of the DuoGo and verify that the printer is charging. Let's go over those 3 lights from earlier now. Located on the left side of the printer are the Power, Data, and Status lights. These can tell us a bit of info on the printer. The power light is responsible for telling us whether or not the printer is on. When the printer is on and connected to AC power, in this case the charging cable, it will glow green. When the printer is on but running off battery power, it will glow amber. The data light indicates when the printer is actually printing. Under normal circumstances, you should only ever see this light come on when the unit is turning on. If this light ever glows red, it indicates a failure with the printer. Finally, there's the status light. This light tells you a couple of things. If it's glowing solid amber, it means that the unit is currently charging. If it's glowing amber and blinking, that indicates that the unit is not at 100% charge. Slow blinks mean 75%, medium blinks mean 50%, and fast blinks mean 25% or less. Now that we've explained those lights, let's verify that the unit turns on and charges. Located above and to the left of the lights is a power button. Press and hold that button until all 3 lights come on, and then release. If the unit is connected to its charging cable and that charging cable is connected to a source of AC power, the power light should be glowing a solid green. If the printer was not at 100% full charge before arriving, the status light may also glow a solid amber. This is normal. It is important that the DuoGo remain on for the entire day and connected to its charging cable when not in use. This is the DuoGo. Once the polls have opened at your polling location and the equipment has finished being set up, the electronic support specialists, colloquially known as the high school techs, have a new primary task. This task is to update the wait time feature. The wait time feature is updated one of 2 ways. The first way is to utilize one of the e-poll books. You press the button in the top right of the app, symbolized with the icon of 3 people standing. From there, you simply press the button that contains the count of voters waiting in line at your polling location. The second way is to enter the URL into a web browser on your smartphone. From there, you enter your phone number on the website. At this point, you will receive a 6-digit verification code. Enter the code into the website, and it will prompt you to enter the number of voters waiting in line at your polling location. The wait time feature is to be updated every 15 minutes. This gives voters in Harris County the ability to see accurate and up-to-date information regarding which polling locations are busy and which are not. Please note, the ePoll books, while able to update the wait time feature, should be used only in the event that you are unable to update the wait time feature with your phone. The ePoll books are used to check in and process voters as their primary intended function. This is the wait time feature. With our transition to the Hart Verity voting system, the voting process at a Harris County polling location has changed. The first half of the process is similar. The voter enters into the polling location and then proceeds to the check-in table. From there, a poll worker looks up the voter using one of the ePoll books, which then produces a barcode. This is where it begins to differ. Using the barcode reader plugged into the controller, a poll worker scans the barcode on the ePoll book. This automatically produces an access code with the voter's precinct ballot style. At this point, the voter receives a sheet of thermal paper and proceeds to a voting booth. The booth will prompt the voter to select a language and then enter in their access code. Once the machine accepts the access code, it will then require the sheet of thermal paper to be inserted. Please note, the thermal paper will only be accepted if it is inserted correctly. The correct way to insert the thermal paper is the arrow side up, arrow pointing towards the machine, like so. We also strongly encourage poll workers to ask that the voter inserts the sheet with both hands so as to reduce the chance of a paper jam. Once the machine has accepted the thermal paper, it will display that voter's ballot style. From there, the voter navigates the ballot with the touchscreen, or ATI module if the booth has one, makes their selections, and reviews their choices before printing their ballot. Note, the ballot has not been cast at this point. In order to cast the printed ballot, the voter takes the thermal paper and inserts it into the scan unit. Much like the previous machines, the vote has been cast and recorded once the scan unit produces the American flag and states your vote has been recorded. This is how to cast a ballot on the Verity voting machines. Alongside some new equipment, we are implementing a new curbside voting process. Key to this new process are the Duo Go's. The Duo Go's allow a Duo tablet to be disconnected from the base station and handed to a voter inside of their car. We'll now go over the Duo Go's role in curbside voting. Once a voter has indicated they'd like to vote curbside via the buzzer, one of the judges as well as one other poll worker will head outside with one of the ePoll books in order to check in the voter. Once the ePoll book produces a barcode, the judge takes it back inside. From here, the judge uses the barcode reader and generates an access code. Note, use only the controller attached to the Curbside Duo to produce the curbside voter's access code. If the barcode reader attached to the other controller is used, you will not be able to use the access code on the Curbside Duo. Once the correct controller has generated an access code for the curbside voter, enter the access code into the Curbside Duo. The Duo will then prompt you to insert paper to continue. Do not insert paper into the Duo's base station. Instead, unlock the Duo's tablet from the case. It should, if an access code has been entered, display, connect the Duo Go carrier. At this point, remove the tablet from its dock and open the rear hatch to the Duo Go if it's closed. Unsecure the Velcro straps and lay them to the side of the Duo Go. Located on the lower left-hand side of the Duo tablet is a USB port. Connect the USB cable on the lower right-hand corner of the inside of the Duo Go's case to the Duo tablet's USB port. Gently lay the Duo tablet face down inside of the Duo Go. Please note, the Duo tablet must be correctly oriented inside of the Duo Go. If the USB cable seems too short to lay the Duo tablet inside of the Duo Go, it's likely that you have the tablet oriented incorrectly. You may also have to lay the tablet in at an angle in order to get it to fit under the Duo Go's rear hatch's hinge. Once you have connected the tablet to the Duo Go, secure the tablet in place using the Velcro straps. Finally, retrieve a piece of thermal ballot paper. This next step is very important to prevent any potential issues, so pay close attention. Hold the thermal ballot paper so that you're able to see both the black rectangles and the black arrow. Rotate it so that the black arrow is facing down. Carefully insert the ballot paper, arrow down, into the printer. Be sure to insert the paper as straight as possible, otherwise it may result in a paper jam. The printer should, if the paper is inserted fully and correctly, engage and grip the paper, pulling it in. Gently fold the paper over, being sure not to cause any sharp bends or creases, and then close the rear hatch of the Duo Go behind it, making sure it clicks shut. Finally, disconnect the Duo Go's charging cable from the Duo Go. Flip the Duo Go over. If done correctly, the Duo Go should display sheet inserted correctly. If it displays something else, for example, more than one sheet inserted, or sheet inserted incorrectly, open the Duo Go and verify that the sheet has in fact been inserted with the correct orientation. At this point, if the voter has requested an accessible aid, such as the ATI module, you could connect it to the Duo Go by sliding open the dust cover, like so, and connecting the ATI module to the Duo Go. Take both the Duo Go and the curbside carrier envelope out to the curbside voter. Give both to the voter and allow them to make their selections. Once the voter finalizes their selections, the Duo Go will then print their ballot out through the thin slot located above the tablet screen. Instruct the voter to inspect their ballot thoroughly for any mechanical damage or printer errors. Once they are satisfied, instruct the voter to insert their ballot into the curbside carrier envelope with the lower half sticking out. Retrieve both the curbside carrier envelope with the printed ballot inside and the Duo Go from the voter. Instruct the voter to wait there while the judge takes their ballot, obscured by the curbside carrier envelope, inside and inserts it into the scan unit. Using the curbside carrier envelope, the judge inserts the exposed lower half of the voter's printed ballot into the scan unit. If the curbside voter would like for a passenger in their car to witness the ballot being scanned, they are permitted to do so. Once the judge has verified that the ballot has been counted, they return to the curbside voter with an I voted sticker. Give the voter their sticker and head back inside with the Duo Go. At this point, the tablet inside of the Duo Go should be displaying the message, "The ballot marking session is complete." Place the Duo Go face down on the Duo Go table and reconnect the charging cable to the Duo Go. Open the rear hatch of the Duo Go and unsecure the Velcro straps. Gently lift the Duo tablet up just enough to be able to grip and disconnect the USB cable connected to the tablet. Place the tablet back into the correct base station and lock it in place. Please note, do not attempt to place the Duo tablet in a different base station. The tablet and base station are paired and will not work otherwise. Verify that the Duo Go printer is both on and charging. Verify that the tablet has been successfully reconnected to the base station. Please note, if a voter indicates they'd like to vote curbside, it is important to keep the ballot dry. If it's raining, do everything in your ability to keep the ballot dry. Otherwise, the scan unit will not accept the printed ballot. This is a sneeze guard. The sneeze guards are placed in front of the iPads as well as in front of the controllers. They will come unassembled in a flat box. Inside of the flat box you will find a clear barrier, 2 aluminum supports, and 4 thumb screws. In order to assemble the sneeze guard, first line up the 2 holes in the barrier with the 2 holes on 1 aluminum support. The barrier should protrude from the aluminum support like this, and not sit nearly flush, like this. Next, screw in 2 of the thumb screws through the barrier into the aluminum support. Line up the second support with the remaining 2 holes in the barrier. Insert the last 2 thumb screws and tighten. Finally, stand up the assembled sneeze guard. It should look like this. If it looks like this, the barrier is upside down. This is the sneeze guard. This box contains an ADA call bell. Inside the box you will find the base, the 2 halves of the telescoping pole, the transmitter, the receiver power adapter, the back plate, the ADA plate, 2 screws and 2 wing nuts in a plastic bag, and the assembly instruction manual. To assemble the call bell, first remove everything from the call bell's case. Next, set the base flat on the ground. Screw the lower half of the telescoping pole onto the base. Screw the upper half of the telescoping pole onto the lower half. Extend the telescoping pole by loosening the 2 joints, extending them, and then tightening them. Take the back plate and loosen the thumb screw on the rear until you are able to set the ring over the top of the telescoping pole. Align the screw with the groove along the top of the pole and tighten the thumb screw. Line up the 2 holes in the back plate with the 2 holes on the ADA plate. Insert one of the screws through the top hole and hold the plate in place. Tighten one of the wing nuts on the screw until firm. Do the same for the lower hole. Make sure the wing nuts are on the back side of the ADA plate, not the front. Next, plug the receiver's power adapter into a wall outlet and then into the receiver. Place the receiver somewhere inside of the polling location. Once you have done this, test the transmitter by pressing the gray button located on the front. Following this, speak to the presiding judge to determine where they would like the transmitter to be positioned in the parking lot. This is the yellow sanitation station. Yellow sanitation stations are used only for early voting. While transporting the sanitation station, please grip it only by the handle located behind the sign on the top of the station. The sanitation station has 4 main components: the gel dispenser, paper towel dispenser, trash can, and cabinet, located in the rear of the sanitation station. In order for the gel dispenser to work, it must be filled with sanitizing gel, have batteries, and be switched to the on position. If all 3 are true, it will dispense sanitizing gel when your hand is placed under the dispenser. The cabinet requires a key to open, located inside of the judge's supply box. This is the yellow sanitation station. In the past, we've utilized sanitation stations. These came in 2 varieties, yellow and black. However, we are replacing the black sanitation stations, not the yellow ones, with bottles filled with sanitizing gel. These are standard hand pump bottles, like you may have in your own home. In order to use them, rotate the nozzle into the unlocked position. Please note, before placing them back into the PPE box or tub they arrived in, please rotate the nozzle back into the locked position. The gel may otherwise ruin the box or tub they are returned in. Now we are going to go over how to troubleshoot some common issues at a polling location. If at any point you are troubleshooting any problem on a live voting line, you must first instruct the poll workers to stop issuing access codes from that controller. You may not attempt to troubleshoot a voting line with voters actively voting on it. Headphones not working. If the headphones are not producing a sound, check that the volume is turned all the way up on the headphones if it has a volume wheel. In addition, the Duo units can also adjust the audio on the headphones via a menu on the touchscreen. Next, check that they are plugged into the correct audio port on the side of the ATI module. The correct port will be labeled with a small headphone symbol. The headphones may also not work if the ATI module was connected after the Duo it is attached to was turned on, or if the ATI module was unplugged and then plugged back in. If this is the case, reboot the machine with the ATI module connected. iPad is losing power. If an iPad is losing power over the course of the day, this usually indicates that the iPad is either not plugged in or plugged in incorrectly. The correct way to plug in the iPad is iPad connected to lightning cable connected to white charging brick, and white charging brick connected to the surge protector. If the iPad is plugged directly into the USB slot on the surge protector, it will not be able to charge fast enough to keep from losing power over the course of the day. Surge protector has no power. If the surge protector is not able to supply power, this is normally the result of one of three things: the surge protector switch not being set to the on position, the surge protector not being plugged in, or the surge protector being plugged into an outlet with no power. Verify that the surge protector is on, that it is plugged into an outlet with power. Sanitation station isn't producing gel. If the sanitation station doesn't make a noise when you place your hand under it, verify that the gel dispenser is set to the on position and that it has all 4 C-cell batteries. If it does make a noise but does not dispense gel, verify that the gel reservoir, located inside of the gel dispenser's case, is filled with sanitizing gel. MiFi/MP70/cell phone not on, no signal. The MiFi, MP70, and cell phones will arrive powered off. Make sure at the start of the day you power these things on. The MiFi is powered on by holding the power button, usually located in the top right. The MP70 is powered on by plugging the power brick into an outlet. The cell phone is powered on by holding the red End Call button. Once they are powered on, make sure they are located somewhere in the polling location with good signal, such as next to an exterior door or a window. Keep these things plugged in on their charger for the entire day. Remember, if your location receives an MP70, do not turn on the MiFi unless instructed to by election officials. Duo paper jam. Probably the most common issue you can expect to encounter are paper jams. These are most often caused by the crooked insertion of the thermal ballot paper or an out-of-calibration ballot printer. The Duo will prompt you to resolve the issue by clearing the paper forwards or backwards. Forward sends it the rest of the way through the printer, and backwards sends it back out the slot it was inserted. Send it in whichever direction requires it to travel a shorter distance. It can be helpful to guide the sheet back towards the center of the track it's traveling on by gently pulling it with your hand. Once the jam is cleared, it asks if the sheet was printed correctly, needs to be reprinted, or to exit. Have the voter visually inspect the paper. If it is free of any tears, serrations along the edges, or folds, the scan unit may accept it. Be aware that paper jams may also, however, result in the ballot failing to print completely. Ask the voter to visually inspect the ballot for mechanical damage or an incomplete print. If the voter is satisfied with the printed ballot, have the voter attempt to insert the ballot into the scan unit. If the scan fails to accept the printed ballot, you will need to spoil the ballot and have the voter reprint the sheet. If the sheet is obviously damaged or printed incorrectly, ask the presiding judge to spoil the ballot, hit reprint sheet, and give another thermal sheet to the voter to print their ballot on. Please note, you will require a poll worker code for this, so call us if you don't have one. Red LED light on Duo controller or scan. This is most commonly caused by the tablet not being fully seated into its dock. Simply gently press down on the top of the tablet and it should turn green. Controller not found. This indicates that the Duo is not communicating with the controller. This is normally caused by an incomplete daisy chain connection. Check that every single Verity cable is fully inserted into the Duos and controller. If they are all fully inserted, remove and reinsert the Verity cables from each machine affected, as well as the machine connected before the affected machine or machines. ATI module not working. This is typically caused by one of two reasons. 1. The ATI module isn't plugged in or isn't fully plugged into the Duo unit. Or 2. The ATI module was connected to the Duo after the Duo began to boot up. The solution to both of these problems is to unplug the ATI module and then plug it in completely to the Duo and then reboot the machine. Booth shows no battery power. This indicates that the battery attached to the scan, controller, or Duo unit is either completely dead or not connected. To address this, first power the machine down completely. If you fail to power down the affected machine before attempting to check the batteries, you could cause damage to the machine. Next, unlock the tablet from its dock and turn the tablet over. On the underside of the tablet, located near the bottom, is a panel with 2 clips. Depress the 2 clips in order to remove the panel. Inside, you will find the unit's battery. Firstly, press the small oval Test button in order to check the battery percentage. Next, hold the battery in place with your palm and turn the tablet over. The battery should gently fall out of the battery compartment and into your hand. Release the clip on the battery connector by depressing one side and pull the battery free. Once the battery has been disconnected, reconnect the battery to the tablet, making sure that the connector attaches completely. Set the battery back inside of the compartment, reattach the compartment's panel, set the tablet back on the dock, and lock it into place. Turn the machine back on and check if it has battery power once the diagnostic screen displays. If it still shows no battery, that battery will need to be replaced. Booth shows no AC power. This is most commonly due to a faulty connection in the AC power cable. It is fairly easy to separate the 2 halves of the power cable if the cable catches on something, so make sure that the power cable has not inadvertently been disconnected. Next, check to make sure that the power cable is connected and locked to the power cable port on the rear of the machine. You may need to wiggle the power cable side to side while inserting it to be sure that the power cable locks to the rear of the machine. Once it's inserted and locked into place, give it a firm tug in order to check that it is connected. Failing this, check to make sure that the power cable is in fact plugged into an outlet and that the outlet is able to produce power. Ballot printer fails to grip paper. Occasionally, a machine may have a ballot printer that is failing to grip the thermal paper that the ballots are printed on. In order to remedy this, press the blue poll worker button in the rear of the machine, press change settings on the tablet, and then paper sensor calibration. Follow the on-screen prompts to calibrate the paper sensor. You will need a maintenance code to do this, so give us a call if your polling location doesn't have one. Sheet inserted incorrectly. If a Duo is repeatedly giving an error message claiming that the sheet has been inserted incorrectly while the paper has been inserted correctly, recalibrate the paper sensor. Press the blue poll worker button on the rear of the machine, press change settings, and then select paper sensor calibration. Call us for a maintenance code if you don't have access to one. Tablet unlocked. If the tablet is displaying a message saying tablet unlocked, please lock the tablet into place using the lock located to the right of the tablet. If it continues to produce this message even when locked, please call the help desk. Power cable keeps falling out. If a power cable repeatedly falls out of the back of the unit, this typically indicates that it is not locking into place. Wiggle the power cable while inserting it. It should produce a muffled click that can be heard and felt when it locks into place. Please note, the power cable will only fit onto the power cable port one way. When inserting it, make sure that the flat side of the power cable is facing straight up. Power cable won't come out. If you are having difficulty removing the power cable, please be sure that you are unlocking the cable when attempting to remove it. The lock on the power cable, shown here, must be pulled back while the cable is being pulled out of the machine, otherwise it will not release. Sheet fails to scan. If the scan unit fails to scan a sheet, this is either due to the paper having mechanical damage or failing to have fully printed on the paper. Have the presiding judge spoil the ballot and ask the voter to reprint their ballot. Remember, the ballot is not counted until the scan unit scans and accepts the ballot. If they need a new access code, do not requalify the voter on the e-poll book. Generate a new access code using their ballot style located on their old access code. Paper roll printer out of paper. If the paper roll printer in the controller or scan units runs out of paper, replacing the roll is fairly simple. Simply pull back on this latch, remove the spent roll, and insert a new roll with the paper coming from under the roll, like so. Please note, on the old JBCs, there was an aluminum dowel that the paper had to be inserted over. On the new machines, you simply place the roll into the chamber. Once the roll is inserted, pull a length of the paper out of the printer and close the lid to the paper roll printer, making sure it clicks into place. The orange light on the printer will turn green, indicating it is fully closed. Finally, tear off the excess paper. Duo Go displays red lights on the Duo Go printer. If the Duo Go is displaying 3 red lights on the internal printer, this indicates a significant failure of the printer. Attempt to resolve the issue by first rebooting the Duo Go printer by holding the power button until the power light turns off, and then wait a few moments. Next, press and hold the power button until all 3 lights turn on. If the problem persists, please call the help desk. Once the polls have closed at your location, you are expected to break down the equipment you set up and prepare it for transport. Set every single piece of equipment that arrived in the e-poll book case back into the e-poll book case. Each object has a specific slot shown here, so please make sure that items are going in the correct places. Be sure to roll up any cables before placing them back into their slots. However, do not push the cables all the way down into their slots, otherwise they are extremely difficult to retrieve. Place the e-poll books back into their slot with the glass screens facing each other. Once you've done so, tilt the e-poll books so they are not standing straight up. Failing to do either may result in damage to the e-poll books. Once you close the e-poll book case, be sure to latch the lid tightly against the rest of the case. To break down the sneeze guards, disconnect the 4 thumb screws from the sneeze guard. Set the screen, supports, and thumb screws back into the box. To break down the yellow sanitation station, first ensure that the gel dispenser is switched to the off position. Next, wheel it over to wherever the rest of the equipment is being set for transport and ensure the cabinet door is locked. Break down the ADA call bell by first moving the transmitter, pole, and base back inside of the polling location. Remove the ADA plate secured by the 2 screws and 2 wing nuts. Be sure to place the screws and wing nuts back into the plastic bag they arrived in. Remove the back plate by loosening the thumb screw, holding it in place. Shorten the telescoping pole to its shortest length, then remove the upper and lower half of the telescoping pole from the base. Remove the foam insert from the case, and set the base inside first, and the ADA plate second. Replace the foam insert and place the remaining equipment into the case. Be sure to latch the lid shut and set it with the rest of the equipment. Once the poles have closed, the voting machines must be broken down and prepared for transport. First, in order to make the subsequent steps easier, remove the privacy screens from the booths and set them off to the side. Once you have done so, you may turn off the controllers, duos, and the scan unit. Next, disconnect the Verity cables from each controller and duo, placing them back inside the bags they came in. Following this, disconnect the ATI module from any duos that have one. Separate the headphones from the ATI modules. Disconnect the barcode reader from the controller. Once all the Verity cables, headphones, ATI modules, and the barcode reader have been unplugged, please place them back inside of the voting machine accessories box. Unplug the power cables from every controller and duo, separate the halves of the power cables, and place them back in the compartment they arrived in. Please note that it can be difficult to fit both halves of the power cable back into the blue power cable compartment. We found that it's easiest if you do the following. Place the brick in the lower half of the compartment, fold the half that plugs into the wall along its fold lines until it can fit next to the power brick. Fold the half that's attached to the power brick along its fold lines and fit it into the upper compartment like so, making sure that no part of the cable protrudes from the blue power cable compartment. Place the blue power cable compartment door back on the blue power cable compartment, making sure that the 2 plastic clips lock in place. Repeat this process for every controller, duo, and scan unit. Next, using the key provided to the presiding judge, unlock the tablets from their docks on the machines. Place each machine back into the slot on the underside of the lid. Note, each tablet is mated to the case it came in, so make sure each tablet stays inside of its original case. Lock the tablet to the underside of the lid and rotate the blue lever on the top left downwards, securing the tablet in place. Once you have verified that the tablet is locked in place, the power cable is inside the blue power cable compartment, and the blue power cable compartment door is fully closed, you may close the lid. To do so, place your hand on the handle at the top of the lid and give the hinge on the left a tug to unlock it. Lower the lid and secure the 2 latches on the front side of the case. Pull the latch on the underside of the booth or ballot box forward in order to lift the duo or scan off its platform. Place the duos and controllers back in the cage they arrived in. In order to break down the standard and accessible booths, set them on the ground upside down. Remove the 2 smaller feet from the front legs of the booths. You do this by pushing in the 2 silver pins and sliding the foot off of the leg. Set them off to the side. Next, remove the larger rear foot from the rear legs by the same process. Push in the silver pins and slide the foot off. Once you've removed all 3 feet, close the booth's legs halfway. Following this, slide the 2 smaller front feet into the brace on the underside of the booth. Once this is done, you may close the legs completely. On the accessible booths, there are 2 elastic straps located here that you must wrap around the folded legs, like so. Place the now folded booth back inside of the travel bag it arrived in, with the legs pointing up. Remember, standard booths go into the bags with the black handle, accessible booths go into the bags with the red handle. Next, place the larger rear foot into the bag, as well as the booth's 2 privacy screens. Zip the bag shut, and place it inside of the cage that it arrived in. Repeat this for every single booth. If your location received daisy chain power kits, place the booths inside of the travel bag as you would normally. Be sure to place the length of the AC adapter's locking cable as well as the AC power cable completely within the travel bag. In order to break down the ballot box, the presiding judge must first open the ballot box and collect the ballot bag, as well as verify that the emergency reserve is empty. Do not attempt to break down the ballot box before this is done. Once the judge has verified that the ballot box is empty, you may begin breaking down the ballot box. First, make sure that the latch that secures the scan unit is pulled forward. After this, rotate the floor of the ballot box up and close the door. Rotate the lid up and over the ballot box until it comes in contact with the door of the ballot box. There are 3 elastic straps located here, which secure to silver studs. Pull the elastic straps over the studs to secure the lid to the frame. Next, press inwards on the 2 folding sides of the ballot box until the front and rear are able to be latched. Secure the 4 latches on the sides of the ballot box and place the ballot box back inside of the bag it arrived in. Place the 2 privacy screens for the scan unit into the bag and then Velcro the bag shut. Place the bag with the ballot box inside of the cage with the other equipment. In order to break down the Duo Go, first disconnect the power cable from the Duo Go and separate the two halves. Next, press and hold the power button until the power light shuts off. Connect the two Velcro straps together and lay them inside of the Duo Go's case. Gently close the rear hatch of the Duo Go, making sure that it clicks shut. Fold and place both halves of the Duo Go's power cable into the white cloth bag they came in. Lay the white cloth bag inside of the Duo Go's box, against the inside of the plastic handle. Lay the Duo Go inside of the box. The left handle of the Duo Go should be holding the white cloth bag with the power cable in place. Note: the foam cutout glued to the inside of the Duo Go's box matches the silhouette of the Duo Go. Make sure you're laying the Duo Go face up, with the red heart label on the left side. Finally, close the box and set it with the rest of the equipment. To break down the Duo Go table, first invert the table. Lay it first on its side, then rotate it until the table is upside down. Release the locking hinges by sliding the silver links down and out of the way, and apply a firm pressure to the inside of the hinge in order to release it. Do this process for all 4 hinges. Finally, fold the table legs down, and place the table with the rest of the equipment for transport. Some of the equipment at your polling location will arrive to your polling location sealed. We'll now go over these seals in a bit of detail. These seals can come in a variety of colors. However, the most common variety you might see is red or green. Some seals are meant to be broken and replaced. However, others should remain intact for the duration of voting. Each seal has a distinct serial number written on one side. As part of the judge's paperwork, the presiding and alternate judges are required to notate the numbers on these seals. Let's go over some of the sealed equipment. The ballot box will arrive to your polling location with the emergency reserve hatch and rear door sealed shut. In addition, after securing the scan unit to the top of the ballot box, the presiding judge will seal the front door and note the serial number. These sealed numbers are filled out on the ballot box seal log, along with the date, poll code, and signature of the presiding and alternate judges. The front door seal must be broken by the judge in order to retrieve the votes at the end of the night. The back door seal will similarly be broken at the end of early voting in order to verify that the emergency reserve is empty. Finally, the emergency slot seal is broken in the event of a scan unit failure. The equipment cages, also known as caddies, arrive to polling locations sealed. This seal must be broken in order to remove the equipment from the caddy. For early voting locations, the caddies must be sealed shut after the polls have been suspended during early voting every single night. The seal numbers are to be recorded on the caddy seal log, as well as the date and signature of the location's 2 judges. The provisional ballot tub is secured by 2 seals, one on either side. Both seals must be noted on the provisional tub seal log, as well as the dates and the initials of the 2 judges. There is no circumstance in which you are expected to break these seals. Do not break these seals. The 2 controllers for your polling location will arrive in the equipment caddy secured shut with a seal around the handle. It is necessary to break these seals in order to open and set up the controllers. You must note the seal numbers on the controllers when they first arrive, as well as the seals used each night to seal the controllers on the controller's seal log. Additionally, each controller has a seal inside of the unit, securing the V-drive door shut. There is absolutely no circumstance in which a poll worker is permitted to break this seal. Do not break the V-drive door seals. Similarly to the controllers, each location will receive a scan unit that arrives sealed shut. Much like the controllers, the scan unit must be sealed at the end of each night of early voting, and these seals must be recorded on the scanned seal log. Inside of the scan unit is a sealed V-drive door. You will never be asked to break this seal. Do not break the V-drive door seal. The gray supply cabinets, colloquially known as GOATs, will also arrive sealed and must be sealed at the end of every night of early voting. The seal goes through the same loop that the padlock secures through on the front of the cabinet. These seal numbers are to be recorded on the supply cabinet seal log. Note: only early voting locations receive and utilize supply cabinets. Finally, there is the yellow zip tie around the handle slot of the ballot box's travel bag. These zip ties are used by us to quickly identify if a ballot box is used for early voting. Please do not break these zip ties. As part of the judges' paperwork, the presiding and alternate judges are required to fill out reconciliation forms. We'll now go over that process in a bit of detail. Please note: poll workers are not permitted to begin breaking down equipment until after the presiding judge has printed all tapes and recorded all seals required on their paperwork. For early voting locations, the judges will be filling out an early voting reconciliation form. There will be 1 early voting reconciliation envelope for each day of early voting. At the start of the day, the presiding judge will retrieve the open report from the scan unit and any controllers their location has. Once they have done so, they note each unit's ballot counter number in the box located to the right of each unit's open polls report. At this point, the tapes are placed inside of the early voting daily reconciliation envelope. At the end of the day, once the polls have been suspended on all scan units and controllers, the presiding judge will print out the suspend polls report from each controller and scan. Once they have done so, they record the ballot counter numbers in the boxes to the right of suspend polls report. Once the numbers have been recorded, the tapes are placed inside of the early voting daily reconciliation envelope. The presiding and alternate judges then sign the form. This process is repeated for each day of early voting. For election day locations, the process for filling out the reconciliation form is similar but differs in significant ways. We'll go over that now. First and foremost, the election day reconciliation logs are to be filled out in triplicate. You will receive 3 copies: a white copy, a pink copy, and a blue copy. Each of these copies serves a distinct purpose and goes in a distinct location. At the start of the day, the presiding judge is required to, on all 3 forms, record the location's poll code, the election title, and the date of the election. Following this, the presiding judge records the number of blank ballot pages they receive under Register of Official Ballots. At this point, the presiding judge is to retrieve the zero reports and open polls reports from each scan and controller as part of the open polls process. They will then note each machine's respective ballot counter number found under Reconciliation Information. At the end of the day, after the polls have been closed on each scan unit and controller, the presiding judge is to retrieve the suspend polls report that is generated as part of the closed polls process, along with the access code reports from their location's controllers. They will note the numbers on the suspend polls reports in each machine's respective suspend polls report boxes. The tapes for each machine will be placed inside of the white envelope for device reports/tapes, along with the white reconciliation log, as well as the access code report tapes from both controllers. The presiding judge then records the poll code, election title, and date of the election on the envelope. Finally, as I mentioned before, each one of the 3 copies of the election day reconciliation form go in a specific place. The white copy is to be placed inside of the white reconciliation log envelope. The pink copy is to be placed inside of the pink envelope number 3. Finally, the blue copy is to be placed inside of the scan unit before it is sealed and given to the constable at the end of the night. This has been a brief summary of the reconciliation forms. Inside of each of the controllers and scan units is a chain of custody. The purpose of this chain of custody is to ensure that the controllers and scan units arrive to their polling location unopened and not tampered with. On the chain of custody, you will find the poll code, unit serial number, V-drive door seal number, and outer seal number. The poll code will be in the clear plastic sleeve on the right side of the lid. The unit serial number will be located next to the handle. The V-drive door seal number is found to the right of the tablet dock. Finally, the outer seal number is the number on the seal secured around the handle. A few things to keep in mind at your polling location. These new machines, while roughly the same weight as our previous machines, are somewhat harder to maneuver and position because of their shape. If at any point you need help, don't be afraid to ask. If at any point you need to reposition a voting booth, make sure any and all cables are unplugged from the rear of the machine. When unplugging cables from the machines, please grip the cable by the plastic tip and not the wire itself. These machines take roughly 4 minutes, 30 seconds in order to boot up. As part of the boot up process, the machine's display will shut off for approximately 30 seconds. This is normal. If the LED light located on the lower right of the tablet dock is green, the unit is on. If a ballot needs to be spoiled and a second access code generated, do not requalify the voter. Instead, using the voter's previous access code, generate a new access code using the voter's ballot style located here. If, when you check in a voter, you miss the voter's barcode on the e-poll book and were unable to generate that voter's access code, do not requalify the voter. Instead, call the Elections Administration Office in order to retrieve that voter's ballot style. This concludes the training video.